GameMarx.
Welcome to GameMarx, the podcast for Xbox Live indie games and development. GameMarx, where gamers control the means of production.
Hey everyone, welcome to the show. We are back after a couple weeks off. I can't say that I wouldn't mind a third week off. I'm still fighting on and off flu type symptoms, like not all in all out sick, but like stuffed up and tired.
I was gonna say, like the remnants of whatever it was, assuming you guys had the same thing I had.
But it's like the third time I've gone from like, okay, I feel good this day, I think it's done, to like 2 days later, like, oh, well, I guess not.
I haven't been like that, I've just been coughing.
Without the real sickness in between. Without the real, but I mean also tired, you know, holidays, what they are.
Yeah.
Going through all the events.
Getting excited for the children. Getting excited when the children are excited. Coming down from the excitement of the caffeine and the sugar and the excitement.
Well, and they, and she tweeted, Cicely tweeted, like, because I got up, so I do, I stuck to tradition, and I did my standing rib roast. It's like the most expensive cut of beef that you can get. Basically from it comes like the ribeye steak and several other pieces, but, you know, I did it as a roast. And just, you know, do it low and slow. I don't do a lot because it's a very good, flavorful cut of meat. You don't need to do anything to it. But to cook it slow, you got to get up early, you know, so it's ready by, you know, Christmas dinner. I think I planned 5 a.m., but I finally dragged my ass, I think, out of bed at like 5:30. Take the roast out of the refrigerator, let it sit, come up to room temperature for an hour, warm up the oven, and then got back out of bed at 6:30 to put the roast in the oven, which at that point I do have to take the roast out. There's twine that they wrap it in, got to cut that off. It's usually bloody from where it's been sitting, so you kind of got to like mop pat it real quick, and then I do salt and pepper the outside so it'll make a nice crust later. So go through all that, and then I also rub it down with oil, give it a little oil massage, and get it in. At that point, I'm awake enough to go ahead and say, all right, well, I didn't know really what Cicely's plans were, so I didn't mess with the tree before I went to bed or anything, because I didn't know what her plans were, but, like, when I saw there were no gifts under the tree, like, I was like, yeah, fuck that, that's wrong. So I went and got all the gifts, put them under the tree, and then I think at that point, after most of them were there, so it's like she's got some in the garage. She'd woken up and went to get the ones that she had for Jasmine.
I just left one in the garage. Just the one that I could not wrap.
Explain the whole concept that Santa doesn't wrap his gifts because she needed to wrap the one or something. I was like, well, just say it's from Santa. And she's like, well, it has to be wrapped. I was like, no, Santa doesn't wrap his gifts. That's how you know they're from Santa. This is common knowledge to everyone.
Santa wrapped my gifts.
Santa doesn't wrap gifts.
Santa wrapped my gifts.
No, the elves, they went on strike, and part of the agreement with the union for them to come back to work,
the
they
point
were
of
not wrapping the gifts.
Is that so you can't see what it is before Christmas, but Santa's gifts come on Christmas. So.
And also, for us growing up, it was the cue of, like, you could always play with Santa's toys. So, I don't know, my girls have never done this. I might just be by child, you know, although in later Christmases, I know I was drug out of bed by my younger brothers. I didn't give a shit to get up at 6 a.m. on Christmas morning either. I would happily sleep into, you know, 9 or 10.
I blame your genetics.
As a kid, I would want to get up early,
but Hannah will sleep till noon, and feel no remorse about it.
Rachel will wake up at 8:30 by herself and then sit there until 10:30, not moving.
Yeah.
Not even to get a book.
Yeah, so, but they weren't over for Christmas morning. So Jasmine was there, and so that was the cue, was that Santa doesn't wrap his gifts, and that you could play with Santa's gifts until Mom and Dad got up. You know, so like, you couldn't unwrap anything till Mom and Dad got up. And Dad always recorded it, and I've always done that too. It's probably horrible-ass home movie shit to watch, because it's just a camera on a tripod recording people, you know, opening gifts. I mean, if I edit it down, it might be 5 minutes worth of awesome. Of like, oh, look what Uncle so-and-so got me, and oh, look what Grandma got me, and you know. But you gotta edit out, like, all the, you know. And then, of course, it might be good just to have a montage of all my daughters of like, you got more gifts? Do you want to open the gifts? Do you want to open? Look, this gift is yours. Here, I'll tear some of it. You know, like, it's surprisingly
get this
hard.
over with.
And I don't remember being this way, but maybe we were at some point, because all the kids have been, where they just don't have an interest in opening gifts. Like, that just, like, that thing is over, and I'm not interested in opening gifts.
I've got what I want to play with now.
So I convinced her that the unwrapped gifts, leave it there. It's from Santa. And then I don't know where you went. I don't know if you went in the kitchen, or you went in the bathroom or something.
I don't remember.
So I went back to the room and I went to bed. It was like 7:30. You know, the child's not up yet. 7:30. It's not my first rodeo. This day's gonna be long.
I think I went to wash dishes.
Oh, okay. Yeah, because she tweeted something like, you know, got up to help clean or something like that, and turned on and like, I'm back in bed. I'm like, yeah, fuck yeah, I'm back in bed. It's Christmas Day. I know what we're in for on Christmas Day. Plus we got to go over to my brother's for the grandparents to come over, and like there's stages you have to get through.
Yeah.
I did go back to sleep on the sofa, eventually.
So then I think 9, I think was when we got moving.
Jasmine was up by then. She just
Yeah.
is not old enough to realize she can get out when it's daytime of her bed, which she can get out of. Nice little toddler bed.
Steggs wants to know not to look at him, and he's Jewish. So he's that kind of Stegosaurus.
That kind.
That kind. Storis, yeah.
Didn't you get, like,
Sounds like a
Hanukkah
vaguely-
gifts?
Hmm?
Didn't he get, like, Hanukkah gifts?
Hanukkah gifts. Yeah, you get Hanukkah. You get...
You get, like, 12, 7, 12?
So here's the thing.
7,
Since you're on,
8.
this is something I've always wondered. Like, I know it's supposed to be, like, one gift a night, but do you ever get, like, multiple gifts on a night? Because, I don't know, that would seem kind of crappy. Like,
I don't know.
You're locked into, like, just a total of 7 gifts. Or 12.
8. I think
8?
it's 8. 8.
A number between 7 and 12.
8 sounds right, because the menorah, I think, is 8 or 9 candles.
Is that 8 candles?
I think it is.
No, it's not, because it's balanced.
It's balanced. So
So if it
maybe...
was 8, you couldn't have one high in the middle and
No,
3
then
and
that
4.
means either 7 or 9.
Feel like 4 on both sides, and then like the one in the middle.
We're awesome at Jewish heritage.
I just got dreidel.
Yeah.
We're gonna say something offensive if we.
Well, I'm pretty
if we
certain
don't,
we
like,
already
move
have.
back to.
So, anyway, we get through all that. Got the girls a bunch of Steam games. Got them game controllers for their PCs. Rachel was kind of impressive. We went shopping, like the Friday before Christmas, because the girls hadn't done their gift shopping. And, okay, he's more like a non-celebrating Jew, so apparently he's not going to be able to answer our questions.
Yes.
You should still know how many candles are on the menorah, though. So we go in there, and, you know, it takes them a lot to get them to, like, sometimes they kind of know what they want to get somebody, but usually it's like, yeah, get something for Grandma, like, and then you say, like, how about you get him this? You know? Because A, this is good, he would like it. B, I want to fucking go home. You know? Like,
That's why you got what you
Yeah.
got from the girls.
Yeah. So you failed on that one. That is your failure. I at least, like, steered the girls away to, like, Assassin's Creed. You know, of like, okay, here's something vaguely interesting. She let the girls buy me a t-shirt I already have.
It's not the exact same one.
No, it's in gray instead of yellow.
So that means you can wear another one.
Me and my brother also agree the t-shirt, it's the, did you watch Breaking Bad?
No.
Okay, well, never mind. It's a Breaking Bad t-shirt, and if you've seen it, it works better in yellow than the color makes more sense. So yeah, so I got from my... This is actually the year of, like, Dad. You are fucking Dad. Dad gets a coffee mug. Dad gets a couple of shirts. Dad gets a t-shirt he already has.
I tried to steer
And then
them to
Dad
something
thinks,
better.
you know
but
what? Fucking glad I just bought all that shit myself on Steam for me over the year. Not that I want an expensive gift, because I bought the 3D printer, so I was like, no expensive gifts.
I tried
on
to
the
steer them to
list.
something better, but they were just like not budging, and they're like, maybe. I don't know what to get for Dad. I never know what to get for Dad. Well, I'm giving you like 3 options here, and you're not choosing any of them.
I mean, I'm a fucking brony. Like,
I said
that was that hard to, like, go in there and anything My Little Pony would have been.
Maybe they're embarrassed.
Maybe so. I don't know.
I don't think so. I don't think
Hannah's
they are.
not embarrassed. I'm not certain about Rachel.
Ponies. I can't believe
I followed them around FYE twice.
Not that Steggs went to Wikipedia, but 8 nights.
You don't remember the Adam Sandler song? See, that was where I was getting the, I was remembering the 8 nights.
True. Anyway. So we're in there, we get Cicely's gift, and then it's like, okay, they need to get gifts for each other. And they already have gifts from each other through their mom. So they're kind of like, we've already done, you know, we got gifts for each other. And I'm like, well, you know, I'm just kind of like, that doesn't count. Get gifts for each other at our house, you know? Because it also kind of like counts as the budget of your gifts, you know?
Yeah.
It's like, these aren't really from you guys. There's another gift from me to you guys, but
you get to give it.
You get to give it, yeah. So you know, they're going back and forth. I said, I tell you what, you know, since you already got gifts from each other, then how about you get gifts for Jasmine, and just pick out your own damn gift that you want from Jasmine. And they're like, what? I'm like, yes.
Wow.
Just go, like, pick out your gift from Jasmine. Jasmine can't pick it out, you know. And then, you know, and the thing is that
2.
These were the gifts they played with the most. Well, Rachel played some, but Hannah definitely racked up the most time. She went and got Pokemon Black 2. Which is the first time they've made the sequel.
And
Did you set a budget for them since they were picking out their own gifts?
That's like $30.
Okay.
Yeah, I mean, it's a DS game. It's a DS game. So it's like $25-$30.
Oh, okay.
And then, you know, I was like, and no, I don't really have, like, if we start going north of 60, when we get in that area, I'm like, okay, what are we getting? But sometimes it's just like, you're just not finding anything. And I don't want to get somebody crap, because I had a $30 budget. By the way, we got gifts for you.
I actually got a gift for you, but I forgot it. So
okay, well, we need to remember that he gets them to take back. And that in no way has anything to do with the budgets and not getting somebody crap moment. I just remembered that. They're not related.
No, I understand. I'm just...
Why that popped in my head right then, I don't know. But then Rachel goes over and it's like, I said, what do you want, Rachel? She's like, well, it's kind of expensive. Like, what do you want? Again, I want to fucking go home. And she goes over and she goes,
Wow.
well, I want this. And she picks up Skyrim for the Xbox. Yeah, I was out of left field too.
Wow.
She's like, I hear you guys in the basement talk about it, and I kind of looked at it online, and I want to play it. So, mostly you, Dylan. You have influenced
you wanted to or
be
not.
proud, though.
girl, a tween-age girl.
It's better than a lot of things that are made for tween girls.
Indeed. I will give you that.
Yeah, so, no, and I'm totally behind that. Like, I have no problem. And she's like, I told Mom, but she said it was rated mature, and, you know, I couldn't have it. But she already knows. Like, this is not even like, maybe Dad will get it for me. She already knows Dad does not give a shit. And especially, it's like, if I know, you know, if it's D&D, if it's video games.
What? Come on, it's
and
just
she
blood
went through the proper channels, too.
Well, I think the level of what it takes to get an 18 mature in games compared to the rating of an R in a movie is way out of fucking whack. At best, our mature games are PG-13.
Skyrim doesn't, as I remember, it's more violence. It's not like language or sexuality or, you know.
Well, there might be some sex, but it'll be off camera.
Yeah, it's not going to be
Or it'll
like,
be implied, you know?
It's not the worst game you could get that's mature.
No, it's not. I mean, and they've watched me play Dead Space.
They liked you
wow.
watching.
They liked
play.
it. They watched me play the first episode of Walking Dead.
I thought they helped you play the first one.
You can't really help somebody play that. You have to make those decisions in such a short amount of time.
Okay.
They were shouting, but they were kind of like shouting their own decisions, right? It was like black people theater, really, is what it was. It was like, no, don't give her the gun, you know.
You idiot, why did you walk in there?
Yeah. And I was like, I wouldn't have given her the gun, you know. I'm like, there's a zombie coming for her. You give me the gun, you know. Walking Dead, by the way, excellent. I've only played the first episode. I can tell it's going to be excellent. I'm not going to video it because it's almost just a visual novel.
Yeah, so you wouldn't want to...
No, there wouldn't be much merit to doing it for a gameplay perspective. Also, there's not enough time to comment on anything in the game, gameplay-wise, from a design perspective. You can't... And it's not much point in replaying it. Like, it's not replayable, so it's not going to hold up well on a video. So I'm not going to do that as a video playthrough. But yeah, so I ended up like saying, well, you could have it on the Xbox. Which means like one Xbox has become my development unit. The other Xbox is the Netflix box that plays Dora and My Little Ponies and I was going to say Crazy Train. No, what is it? Dinosaur Train.
Dinosaur Train and Sergeant Keroro.
Yeah, not non-stop baby entertainment machine. Well, you know, sometimes it does. You know, sometimes the baby's not in there. But it's like, you know, if you get it on the Xbox, you can't take it to your mom's house, obviously, right?
Right. I'm guessing she can't take it.
Your time, you're going to have to wait till somebody gets off the TV, blah, blah, blah. It's like, you know, the computer, it's your computer. You know, do what you want. I'm also thinking, like, Steam holiday sales. Like, I will fucking nab that son of a bitch. And I finally did, like, I think Christmas Day, it did go to 50%. So I was able to, like, Christmas morning, get the 50% off discount for it, and get it for like $25, which is awesome. Didn't come as a pack, so she doesn't have the expansion, but I forget there's so much in that game, you almost don't want the expansion.
Not until you're ready for it. I think.
And even then you realize, like, I don't need to go back.
And it's not that great. Like, I haven't played the newest expansion that came out, but the one where you build the house and then the one where you fight vampires,
But I mean, that's kind of a fucking awesome moment of like when your 12-year-old daughter is like, what do you want for Christmas? Skyrim. You know? Like, that's not a put your toe in an RPG. We're not talking Fable. You've left Fable way the fuck behind, you know?
No, the question is how far she gets into it, and like if she, you know, like she engages with it and goes like,
well, she played it, and then she came downstairs. So she played it one morning, about 3 hours worth, I think. Which I think is just putting your toe in the surface of Skyrim.
Yeah.
And she was like, I was like, so what did you do? She's like, well, I was on my way to be killed. Had a conversation with some other people who were going to be killed. But then, like, a dragon showed up, and so we got, you know, away from the henchmen before we were killed, and then we kind of escaped the town, and she mentioned, like, there's two factions, but I'm not really 100% sure which one is really, like, the good one that I should be helping out, so...
I don't know that there's really a good one.
Yeah, that's what I was kind of... I was like, yeah, I don't think there's really a good one, from what I've seen of the intro of Skyrim. I don't know much about Skyrim, but I do know kind of the premise and the intro. That's pretty much where she got to. And she's like, yeah, and I casted some spells or something. I don't know. She did something in there, and then so she played it for a bit. She played a bit of FTL.
A lot of FTL?
She played a couple hours worth. That's putting your toe in the beginning of FTL.
Yeah.
I got I'm up to like 40-something hours, 45 hours now, I think, of FTL. Game time. I posted a video up of a run-through, a Mike Plays on FTL, kind of commentarying through it. I get more into commentary of why I'm making the gameplay choices that I'm making, rather than, like, here's what they do well in the game and implement it. But it is a really good game to dissect and look at, and it's like, man, there are some core gameplay mechanics that are done really well that make this become a really phenomenal success. It was a Kickstarter project, but it's hit all the sites for their top 10 game of the years. I mean, it's really wrapping up well. Even if it's not winning game of the year in a lot of places, it's definitely getting mentioned nonstop.
Well, I mean, I started it yesterday, and I see where it's I see where the draw is. I'm definitely going to get, like, I bought it for $5 on Good Old Games, or GOG, or whatever.
Does that give you the Steam key?
No, it doesn't.
Oh, okay.
But, you just install it, and you don't have to run Steam. But I see the draw of it, and I'll definitely get my $5 worth. I don't think I'm going to get 40 hours of addicted into it, just because if I'm playing it, yeah, I'll sit there and play it for several hours, but if I'm not playing it, it's not the kind of game that I just keep like, man, I need to play that.
The interesting thing to deconstruct is that it's a roguelike game, but it implements that well in that you don't... In a roguelike game, you go through, you start over, you start from scratch, you get your upgrades as you go through the game. Maybe you unlock a couple new starting options, but probably not in a playthrough. You get toward the end or whatever, you die, it's over, one life. You start over. There's no saves, there's no checkpoints, there's no continues, there's no New Game Plus, there's none of that. Like, you start completely from scratch again, and what it does well is, you don't get upset by that. You don't like go like, well, fuck, I'm not gonna play this again. I was a badass motherfucking ship at the end. You're like, oh, well, shit. Well, this next run through, I'm gonna do these other things better, and,
Yeah, and your investment is always very minimal. I mean, even if you get to the end of it, you've spent like an hour. Maybe,
I'm getting demanded to post part 2 of my videos. So when I did my playthrough, it went really long.
Like
I'm not
2
gonna say,
hours.
I'm not going to say how long it went, and I'm not going to say how many episodes it became, because I diced it up, and when I started splitting it is when I started realizing, like, there were really good, like, moments of, like, oh, if I, like, cut to black and go 2B to continued here, that'll suck. Of, like, the ship's down, it's got one hull, make it through the battle, now it's time to jump, what are we going to run into next, am I going to make it, and it's like, yeah, cut right there. I will say that this was an amazing fucking lucky run, and I'm glad that I recorded it, and it might be a little narcissistic, but even Cicely noticed when I was editing this one.
Usually he goes, you hear while he's editing, because he's just fast forwarding, so that he doesn't really have to listen to except for portions of it. And I just hear him talking, and I'm like, wait, no, that's him recorded. He's listening to his recording.
I almost last night went on the Roku and just watched my first episode again, which I might do. I might go in and just watch that again. Because also, kind of like watching it, I can kind of like see things at the moment I missed as well. Of like, oh shit, I could have seen that was going to, hit or die. Or that's where that guy died. That's when I lost him. Or, that's why that ship exploded. Like, shit gets crazy. And we were talking about this before the podcast. You can pause at any time, and the best way is to play it is turn-based, not real-time.
Yeah.
And even then, it gets hectic and crazy. Like, even with the ability to pause it, it's still coming at you really fast. So I played a lot of that. Played the first episode of Walking Dead. Like that. I did catch Spec Ops The Line on sale, which was extra credits covered that because of the story and everything. So I'm looking forward to playing that just because, I don't know, I'm like an indie gamer with a stick up my ass who has to play like any kind of indie title. They did something different, right? With the Spec Ops The Line.
Yeah, I picked that up on Amazon when it was on sale just because of extra credits.
So I got that to play. I closed down my Steam. I was going to pop it up and see what else. What else did I play? Because I really didn't do anything.
You didn't
play games.
Like, I played a little bit of Don't Starve.
I played... I may have like 2 or 3 hours in Don't Starve. You played a lot more of it than I have.
I have lasted 20-something days.
I mean, it's kind of... It's Minecraft-y in the sense of, like, you have the land, and you get the resources from the land, and then you make things, but you're not building structures, and you're not deforming the terrain and everything, but you are farming, Yes. So you're just, like, abandoned in a forest. It's also like Minecraft releases a beta with updates to come.
There are fucking spider queens, and they terrorize you, and I cannot sleep.
It has a art style that's oh god, what's it reminiscent of? I'm trying to think of a good.
Early Burton.
Yeah, it is kind of like Tim Burton before the claymation stuff. So it's not claymation animated. If you can imagine a stylized Tim Burton drawings and things like that, but it's more like 2D card cutout type look to it. Looks really well polished. It's going to be a pretty good game going into next year. I just got, after I played it, we got FTL not long after it, and I just got sucked down the FTL way more than I was in Don't Starve. But I knew when I played Don't Starve, or saw the video for it, that she would love that. That's got a lot of the Elements type games that Cicely plays. I'm trying to think what else did I play. I know I finally caught Batman Arkham Asylum and City on a decent sale. They kept going on sale kind of independently, and I just wanted like one $10 or $15 bundle to get them both, and finally I could get $15 and get them both.
Yeah.
And they were both Game of the Year edition, so that was kind of cool. Because Harley Quinn was DLC, I think, in Arkham City.
And I love Harley.
And not only her character, but she's voiced in the game by Tara Strong. So I kind of wanted to get, like, the Tara Strong.
I love Harley.
Because she does really well. I mean, Tara Strong does really well voice characters. A little bronyism.
I was going to say.
Representation there. But she's also Bubbles, the Powerpuff Girls. She's Ben 10, for crying out loud. Just a wealth of Tara Strong characters. And I think she does Harley Quinn. No, she does not do Harley Quinn in the animated series. No. She did some bad stuff, too. I mean, she's the voice of the girl in the Chainsaw game. What is that?
Lollipop?
Chainsaw Lollipop. That had an amazing premise and turned out to be a crap game. She did the voice acting in that.
I bet she wishes she could erase it.
It feels like there's some things I'm leaving out that I played as well. I checked out Euphoria. It was an indie that I had picked up a while ago in a bundle. And I guess it's supposed to be some kind of tower defense game, but you're playing like weird little abstract flower things. I don't know. I played about an hour with it, and I was kind of like, I don't see the interest here. Really artful style, but not gripping gameplay. I played on iPhone the Double Fine game that came out, the free-to-play Double Fine game that they made, and I think it was a spin-off of their Amnesia Fortnite. The Managers of Justice. Middle Manager of Justice. So it's basically, it's a management sim, we got a little office, and you upgrade the offices, and you assign people tasks to work. Except the office is a superhero. It's free. It's a free game. In fact, you don't even need to pay for it. So it's a free-to-play. You have a limited resource that you can buy, and then you have other resources that you get in the game. But you get enough of the limited resource just to play the game that I have tons of it and nothing to do with. And I never bought any of it. Right. I went ahead, though. It was a good game, and I enjoyed it, so I threw them a couple bucks because they had a coin duplicator, like Jetpack Joyride does. So it's like, yes, I like your game. I don't like the idea of the free-to-play and buying items to spend money and currency. But since you have this, investment thing over here, this coin duplicator thing that'll just double the amount of coins that I'm getting on my missions, and it feels like more of an upgrade, then I'll give you a few bucks for that and all that. Also, have you been keeping up with the Double Fine videos?
No.
Episode 7. If you're a backer of Double Fine Adventure, go watch Episode 7. Because shit's starting to get real now. So it's at the point where the time, the budget, and the scope are all out of whack from each other. And it's like either you've got to cut the scope, increase the time, and increase the budget, or you got to cut features. And you know, they even talk about in the latest post about, like, okay, you guys said you wanted to see the reality, so we are going ahead and we're posting this, but, like, there's obviously the fear of potential fan backlash of, like, okay, we talked about a feature, and now it just got cut because we don't have the money to go through and do this. And also, it was pretty interesting in that they... It was pretty interesting in that they talked about how, because they were a Kickstarter project, and they were kind of like the first big one, or, you know, looked at as like a poster child.
Right.
They were talking about, like, the success of Double Fine and the ability of Double Fine to be an independent studio and not have to go back to publishers again. It's really becoming dependent upon this game. And, like, if this game fails, it's going to reflect poorly on Double Fine. We're going to be a joke. We're going to be the butt of, you know, all the Kickstarter jokes, and, you know...
It's almost like they would have done better if it hadn't exploded.
Yeah. So, I mean, it's kind of like, because you look at Brian Fargo in Wasteland, right?
Yeah.
So he's coming out of retirement, you know, not really, but, you know, he's kind of like coming out of retirement, going to pick up this old brand and do it again, right? But see, Double Fine were off and making games. They had publisher deals. They had the ability to go elsewhere, and they wanted the creative freedom. And it's like, if they have to turn and take publisher money, or if they have to, like, if the product doesn't ship on time, or, you know, any of these things, like, if there's reason it fails, then that puts them in serious jeopardy, you know? And it's really interesting to hear them talk about that, and you know, it's also, it doesn't wrap up in episode 7 either. I hope they make some way for you to be able to download those videos. I know they play.
I figured they were. I mean, that's
why
I
only play
really
from
wasn't.
the Kickstarter page because they're backer-only videos.
Right.
But I have not watched them all, and I would love just to get them all downloaded, and then
Queue them up,
and then just play them. You know, maybe I'll just get my copy of Fiddler open, and then just save the stream. That's. If you can play it, you can save it. Sorry, it's the law of the web. Anything that you played over the holiday break that?
I finally finished up replaying Final Fantasy VI, and that was kind of, I was waiting to finish that before I picked up anything else.
Is this your annual like replay, or is this you wanted to?
I just wanted to. I haven't played it since. Well, okay, I picked it up on PlayStation.
Is this a Super Nintendo?
Yeah, this is a Super Nintendo game.
Was there a 5? I never heard anybody talk about 5. I heard 4 and 5, 4 and 6.
5 wasn't released on Super Nintendo. They did release it on PlayStation.
Ah, okay.
But I had played through most of it on the Super Nintendo. I'd never actually finished it. I was like, okay, I'm just going to sit down and play.
What did you play it on?
GBA emulator. I played the advanced version, which is actually with both 4 and 6, you want to play the advanced version. Like going back to because I played 4 before this, and the advanced version actually has some abilities like running and things like that
kind of like Chrono Trigger, like
yes,
the DS version.
Make it less painful.
Yeah, and it removes some of the pain.
Also, playing it on an emulator is nice because you can speed up the emulator, and that takes away a lot of the pain as well, not having to wait on things to happen. And also save state.
I was all set. I was all excited to be able to start recording gameplay of Super NES and NES run-throughs.
Yeah.
I had set out to get her Christmas Super Nintendo, you know, since we're not able to come up with one. And I was just like, all right, I'm just going to buy one. Just going to get a used one. And then my brother called me and he's like, I don't know what to get you guys. And I was like, well, get us a Super Nintendo and get it to both of us. Because it really is kind of going to be a gift to both of us, even if I get it for her. And I was going to get it, but then I bought her these pants I didn't realize were $85 Like, I put them in, I went in, and so...
You know my bondage pants? The skater pants type deal? They're called bondage pants, but they're skater pants.
The intimidating...
That's weird.
But...
The goth that wants to be intimidating, basically. They're like goth pants, but with chains on them.
I don't know.
Spikes.
Can you be goth and be, like, be able to afford $85 pants?
Yes!
It's kind of preppy. It's a little too preppy to be
It
true.
is,
But it's worth $85 worth of material.
Oh, I'm sure it is. It's just...
I didn't realize that. So I was on her Amazon wish list, and I realized she put a Wacom pen tablet on a wish
purely wish list.
Well, she put like the Clinique, the top of the line, the one that has a video screen, touchscreen built in, so you're drawing on the screen. Which even in the Double Fine videos, when I saw the artists, they did not have that. They had the draw pad in front of the screen, not on the screen. But I looked at them already, and I didn't get it for her before because I don't want to fall in a trap of like buying her gifts she doesn't 100% want, and it's like I kind of want to get her more involved in the art and the games and stuff, and we're going to go into this deeper on the podcast. But I don't want to like make that your Christmas gift. It's like, here's your Christmas gift, now work on games.
Yes.
If you're not genuinely interested. So when I saw she'd put that on there on her own, then I'm like, okay, this is like the okay, I can go get this. Figured out which one for budget price was a good model. Put that in there. I saw she had these pants on there. Put that in my cart. When I had to check out, I was checking out. I'm like, whoa, that's expensive. The pants are $85 fucking dollars. Fuck it, I'm already here in checkout. There we go. And I just won't get the Super Nintendo.
Then he was telling me how much he paid for them. I was like, I paid for the purple pants that I have and the black pants that I had. Each of them were $80 on sale.
So, my brother calls up, and I basically explained to him, like, yeah, I got these pants. I wanted to get into this. So go ahead and get that. And that'll be to both of us, and that'll be cool. Go get a used Super Nintendo. Told him the stores to go to get them about what you're going to pay. I told him I looked at the remake consoles, like the Retron and stuff like that, and they're full of reporting issues and emulation problems. Sound's not right, and they're pretty cheap, flimsy devices. And I was like, they're pretty much just as much. And granted, they play both, or they play NES, Super NES, and Genesis. Thing is, we have 2 NES units. Mm-hmm. We don't need that. We just need the Super Nintendo. And I don't think either one of us had a Genesis.
We have a Genesis, but that's Jeremy's Genesis.
So, I mean, neither one of us are like, we need to play all these Genesis games.
The only Genesis games that he really have are Sonic games, and neither of us want that.
Yeah, so that was kind of an argument. So just get us that. And my brother, God bless, I love him, but he is fucking cheap. And so, like, I explained this all to him, and he still goes out, and not only does he buy one of these remake consoles, but he buys an older one, not the current gen ones. So, and then when we open it on Christmas Day, like, I actually had, like, I try not to be a dick at Christmas, right? But, like, I just, like, I was like, wait a minute.
But it's so hard.
When she opened it, and it wasn't...
Yeah, I looked at it.
Nintendo.
At first, got real happy. I was like, Super NES. Oh, this is not the Super NES.
And I looked at it like I was expecting a Super Nintendo as well, and I'm like, wait, you didn't get the Super? You got one of these? He's like, yeah, but it was on the forums, and I tested it out, and it seemed fine, and there was no problems, and played it. And I'm like, oh, all right.
Okay.
I'm like, I've been all over these forums, man. These things are
Right.
shit. I got it home. Fucking Star Fox doesn't play at all. First 2 games I try. Star Fox, not at all. I put in Zelda, Link to the Past, and it screen glitches. Constantly.
Wow.
So it's like, it might play, and you might be okay playing it, and there's no way I can record video off of it. And it's like, I'm just gonna fucking go buy a used NES. Super Nintendo.
We did get that money for Christmas.
Yeah, your mom sent us that money, and I think I'm gonna tell him, thanks, if you want it. If you have a Nintendo at your house, take it. You like the controller, we'll keep the extra controller you bought, so we don't have to get one controller with our Super NES.
Yeah, thanks, Mom, for the Christmas present.
Yeah, the fucking joystick's plug in the side, not the front. Like, imagine that on, like, your console of other, like, shit on there, of, like, I gotta plug this thing in from the side. It's a fucking pain in the ass. There's no, like, inserting the cartridge. There's just, like, a little flap, and then there's the raw circuit board. So when you push it on there, there's no, like, pushing it into anything. You know?
Really?
Yeah.
Yes.
Wow.
You can mess with it before
That
you
little
leave here.
fail-safe that they put in that one?
Yeah.
Gone.
Oh, it's not there. Like, you'll break that shit in no time. Because you're, like, wondering, like, is it in right? Especially with Star Fox. You know,
Oh,
I'm like,
God in heaven.
it wasn't coming on at all. And then, like, the first thing I started Googling on this was, like, yeah, Star Fox and other something chip Mode 7 games or whatever.
Oh, yeah.
They're not going to work. Like, it had tons of problems with that, which were fixed in the next edition. Also, a lot of problems in the next edition. God bless him. You know, Merry Christmas and all that.
At least we got the games.
So, Stegs is asking how expensive is SNES. So, SNES range between, we did see that one for $55?
$55 to $65.
Well, they've gone as high, they've been up to $85.
Well,
I've been watching them for a while, and they've been going from, like, I think that one at 55 or 59, whatever it was the first 50-something SNES that I saw.
But that
most
was,
of them were $70s and $80
yeah,
units.
the 55 one looked kind of scuffed up. That one had been used.
Yeah, and it had been scuffed up. It's like a decent-looking one is going for almost $80 right now. Super NES is past the inflection point. So there's a point. PlayStation 1, $35.
Yeah.
Genesis, $40. Super Nintendo, $80. Like, the Genesis is just new enough that I guess enough people have them.
And they're at the,
But give it 3 years and the Genesis will be $80 because then they'll start becoming... It may also be a factor of the games on the system, too. Like, the Genesis doesn't have a whole lot of games on the system.
and it had a longer tail outside of the U.S.
Yeah. Dreamcast is up there. I think it's still going for like $60, $70.
I think they still make games for it.
But once you hit the Super NES, it's like, so you get a Super Nintendo, $70. Nintendo NES unit, $80.
Yeah.
Atari, 2600, $90.
Wow.
Yeah, there's definitely
Yeah. They had the big wood grain
rarity.
one that we saw. It was cool.
Yeah, I'm gonna get the wood paneled one from Dad that we had. We also had some of the reissue ones, the updated ones that were 100% plastic. But I'm gonna get some of those to do some of the Atari quick looks that I want to do on Mike Plays of just some of those games that have stuck with me on that. So yeah, so let's move into some of the news items. I'm gonna go ahead and reshuffle them real quick. Because I want to put this one first, since we've been talking about it. The Z-Boyd on his blog has some thoughts on RPG Maker on Steam. Basically about, like, hey, RPG Maker's being sold on Steam. It's not that RPG Maker games are on Steam. And I haven't even seen RPG Maker enabled for a Steam workshop like they did for Game Maker. I hope they do that, because that'd be kind of cool. But it's on there, and as I kind of looked at it, and also in an upcoming show, we're going to talk about some of these tools more in depth, because I'm going to bring back Sheldon Picotti that we had on. He was the writer of Deus Ex that was working on Cell Emergence at the time. And now he's teaching a game class, and he's modified Scratch and releasing a program called GameBlocks, which is a modified Scratch. But he had a real good bit on, like, going into all these different game tools and things like that. Some I didn't know which of which, so I told him in email, we were corresponding, in, like, beginning of next year, we will bring him back on the show and dive deeper into this. But as this stuff was coming out, I started having some thoughts and changing of opinion that I'm going to admit, even I was that developer. Even I was the guy that looked at it and went, well, it's kind of what Robert Z. Boyd is blogging a bit here, is that, yeah, it lowers the barrier to entry, and then a bunch of crap comes in. But then as I kind of read that and I thought about it, I'm like, yeah, but lowering the barrier to entry is not a negative.
Yeah.
And coming from Robert, who released text adventures, you know, Molly the Were Zompire, whatever. These text adventures, Epiphany in Space, you know, where he got his start, you know, because XNA lowered a barrier to entry, and that he could, you know, yeah, they're not going to be great. They're not things to hold up, you know, and definitely not against what he's doing now with, like, Cthulhu and Penny Arcade, Rain Slick, but that enabled a new developer, you know, to get on the scene and make a living at it, and that's awesome. And I started looking at him not so much of like, well, there's these, you know, hack tools that people crank out, of like, I don't think anybody gives a shit. Gamers don't give a shit what you build your game in. Like,
right.
There are some negative with RPG Maker. There are some people that complain about, oh, it's an RPG Maker game, blah, 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 blah. And if it gets covered, like, the Cherry Tree High Comedy Club game that was on Steam, Giant Bomb covered it a bit. It's almost visual novel in it. It's kind of a relationship dating sim, but you're not really dating. You're just friendship building. It was built in RPG Maker. It's irrelevant, you know? I mean, it's like so many of the tropes of these games are constant that people love, you know? And let's be honest, when you're making a game with RPG Maker, you are making an RPG, and by that I mean you are making a JRPG.
Right.
Well, typically, yes, but...
I think part of the issue is why, like, when we were doing Xbox Live Indie Game reviews, you would always point out, you know, like, oh, that's a Kevin MacLeod song, is because a lot of the people making games with RPG Maker are using the same set of graphics, and they're basically having to adapt, you know, this,
well,
this exists.
When I was complaining about the RPG makers before, because I was complaining that they were using the same one, and that I knew that they could Google other tile sets for free.
Right. But you've got this, like, pre-created set of graphics that you then have to adapt to this completely different story.
Yeah, they may not work for your story at all, and you may go with it anyway. But the thing is that what I started to, you know, think about is, like, you get to make your game.
Yeah.
And if somebody enjoys the game, it's irrelevant. Like the reused tile sprites, and every guy uses Kevin MacLeod music and all that stuff, at some point stops mattering. It matters to some critics and to some fanboys and forum posts, but if gamers are enjoying the game, then it's irrelevant. And I started thinking on that too, of like, I think these tools, Game Maker, RPG Maker, there's some other ones that I'm forgetting. They can also be used for prototyping your game and getting it up quickly. Like, if you're going to make an RPG in XNA, would it really be so bad to take a week and put in most of the scenes and cutscenes and dialogue and stuff into RPG Maker and post it on the web for, you know, some people to come check out and get feedback on? Like, I don't even mean publicly. I just mean, like, hey, if I can post it in RPG Maker and Flash, I can send out this email link to a bunch of people I know, and like, hey, here's the idea that I'm thinking of. This is a rough sketch of the game, what it may end up looking like. I mean, you can replace the art assets if you want. You cannot, you know, and go through it. And so just as a prototyping tool, what if you lost a week and you've gotten something up that you can play with, and then go, you know, re-implement the whole thing in XNA if you want. Port it to Unity, you know, take it somewhere else. But you've kind of already worked out some of the gameplay systems that you want to have. Now, I think, looking at RPG Maker,
I now have a new profound respect for most of these people who managed to make a game with this, because I want to stab whoever created this in the face.
Oh yeah, it has
well, she's not running into... She's not running into really, like, I'm going to say they're honest quirks of RPG Maker. You kind of got to learn the tool of whatever tool you use. But some of it is just like,
Label
she's
shit.
learning an appreciation for what me and you actually
I already had
do.
an appreciation
Right.
for what you do. You make it so it looks so easy, and then I know it's hard. That's what I told you. I know it's hard because you make it look so easy because you're both very smart. And you both know what the shit you're doing. And I just want to stab them in the face. Except for I made an accidental glitch. Because after you taught me how to make the person start doing something else after they stop doing something, I did it, and then I was like, oh, sweet, I wonder if I can tweak this. And then when I tweaked it, the person did her stuff, and then she hopped off the corner of the screen.
I need to see this at some point to understand.
Well,
it.
there's also great moments of like coming over to her desk and like, and you can appreciate this, of like, walking the character on the screen, and they're going behind some of the sprites they should be walking on top of, and it's like, why is my guy going behind the tree? And it's like, oh,
I was going through the ground.
welcome. So, yeah, I got to think about it. I bought a copy for myself as well. I picked up for $35. I picked up when it was on Steam sale. And I expect RPG Maker to go on sale frequently on Steam.
Yeah, I would imagine, given the prices.
Yeah. Although, I mean, I think it's $80 full price or $70 full price or something. So I bought 2 copies, one for her, one for me. I'm going to play with it as well, because I started thinking, like, if we just threw out some, like, even RPG Maker asset games on our Funkworks website, as a little flash, game ideas, here's a little thing, play out the web. And then there was like hey, here's the games that we're working on in progress and things like that. And there's like an email button of like, just sign up for, new releases and updates. And we can start building a mailing list, and we can start building in a fan base of people who have like, yeah, that was kind of cute. So like, I started working on my RPG Maker game, is Cat Quest.
Did you fix it? Is it still broken?
Well, I didn't figure out. I can go back and mess with it I was trying to show her how to do something, and then my game completely, like the cat completely stopped walking for no explicable reason, and I made a brand new game and did the same thing, and then the cat was walking. So I haven't done any tutorials on it. I've just fucked around with the dialogue screens. Some things are weird for a developer, because they have switches and they have variables. But all switches are Boolean variables. You can't have a Boolean variable, right? You can have a value variable only if the Boolean variables are called switches. So she's lost it.
I wonder if that's like a holdover from older versions, when I'm guessing they didn't have as robust a
yeah, they probably
system.
didn't have. I don't know. So it seemed a little weird as a developer, but as somebody who's new to it, the idea of using switches for state and variable for kind of like score and progression type things, it kind of makes sense for there to be a logical division or a conceptual division if there isn't a physical one.
Right.
So I just messed around with this. The idea of Cat Quest is you play a cat, and you have to go around and do cat things, chase a mouse, you
Push things off of tables.
beg for food, push things off of tables, find a good sleeping spot in the sun.
I can make you a bunny to chase.
But any time, what if I needed it to hop to the left screen?
we can do that too.
Okay. What pathing algorithm will the bunny use to get around obstacles? We're using an A-star pathing. So the Cat Quest. So since you're a cat, nobody understands what you say. You just meow at everybody. All the dialogue by the cat will be quotes from transcendentalist poets in the U.S. Ralph Waldo Emerson, Walt Whitman, and I was looking up these quotes. So, me personally, that was my favorite part of literature. Like I bought a couple books of Emerson and Walden, Walden Pond and those things. Civil Disobedience. I love the Transcendentalists. I love the Transcendentalist movement and statements that they made. I just thought, that was a really cool thing that resonated with me. So I know a lot of the quotes. So like one of the quotes that Emerson has is like perfect for like a cat to say. Again, the people are going to be like, does kitty want food? And the cat's going to respond with, sometimes the evidence is circumstantial, but when there's a fish in the milk, it's obvious. It's just a real good way of like saying no shit. That's what I love about Transcendentalists. Like, you gotta kind of like think about that statement for a moment, but then the idea of a cat, like, are you hungry? And
fish and milk, and
the fish, milk, and I'm just like reading them, like, oh, that'd be hilarious for the cat to say. This is a gimmick. This is not a game. So it's a little RPG maker. Throw it up on the web. You'll get to chuckle or two. Maybe some people link to it, but we put it on our site, right? And we get some traffic to our site, and at the same time, another tool in the belt of like, yeah, I could prototype something in RPG Maker. Then on top of that, I asked her, was she interested in like taking it on and making RPG? Like, I'm not saying it has to be big or small or anything. Whatever you want to make, get your copy and make it, because you and I are working on games or API stuff. But we're really still, Funkworks as a whole, like honing different skills. Like, I've got multiplayer working. Like, I've got spider animations working, Like, we're still kind of bringing pieces in. And I don't know that we're ready to, as a team, go in and tackle a game and say, like, okay,
right.
Team, go.
We don't know what the game is. We wouldn't know what the platform is. There's a lot of questions.
Don't have all those questions answered, we can't really tell an artist what we want. So by getting an RPG Maker, and you can do all your own custom art in RPG Maker, she can make a game, also make her own art with it, and work on her skills like we're working on our skills. Plus, again, it ties in. So you already have a story concept. Are you up to share?
It's roughed out. I don't have the A to B to C starts. I have the A, but I don't have the B to C starts.
so you got like a player that he starts in like a small town?
Yes, he starts in a small town. Well,
like,
he starts in one of the 4 main towns. Well, the 4 main towns that we're concerned with.
Stumbles across some kind of events bigger than himself happen?
No, he's an ancient hero that was captured in a spell when he thought he killed he thought he and his companions killed the main enemy, but the main enemy is back.
So he doesn't know the world anymore, though.
No.
So he's got to meet some companions along the way.
He's got to go find his companions.
Is one of them kind of a Bucky, buck the system? She doesn't follow conventions.
No.
Companion.
Working on that novel? Is that what you're going for? I'm just gonna...
You're just gonna jump to the end?
I'm just gonna jump to the end.
I was all set for this, Dylan, man. I was all like, we're gonna have some journeys and adventures, maybe learn a little bit about each other. Maybe learn a little bit about themselves along the way. Maybe get stronger for the journey. Maybe overcome the little evil at the end. Realize it was really themselves. Well, thank you, Dylan. Thank you for that. I've been waiting to do that all day long.
Wow.
Yeah.
He holds it in.
I love how you're being like, being super supportive about it, and then you're also using it to troll.
That's the best time. Can I have one of your hauls?
Yes.
I am glad though that you got the reference too.
Once he got the reference, I got the reference.
You weren't getting there fast enough.
I know.
Well, I was kind of...
I felt like I need to...
Thank you for pushing me.
I was trying to... Because I didn't know anything about her story whatsoever. So I was just trying to go with some of the common tropes to start off from.
Right.
I went with one of the less common tropes, but I went with a trope. They don't do that much anymore.
So you got multiple screens?
Not yet.
Okay. So I could not figure out how to have, or maybe there isn't an official way of doing it. Maybe you just gotta kind of fake it or something with script. I couldn't figure out how to have like a world map and like a town map. Like I wanted to make like the Dragon Warrior type overworld, and then you go into a scene. Like I didn't want to stay at the 1-to-1 level the entire time.
Should be a way to do that. Like that should be something.
I think it is. Maybe again, I didn't mess with any tutorials or anything to get, I just kind of dove in and played with it. So we'll probably be talking more RPG Maker. Cicely will be giving us the opinion on RPG Maker.
Follow me on Twitter, Arkajaka. And watch the hilarity that will ensue as I make killer bunnies.
Okay. I'm gonna cut a couple news items there. And we're gonna jump into crappycoding.com, Farewell XNA. This is not a rant post, okay? Crappycoding.com and Farewell XNA. This is basically like, hey, time for me to move on from XNA, and because I'm going to go into other platforms, I want you to download. Here is my code that I'm open sourcing that you can grab, and it is a Planet procedural generated code. So I'll just turn the volume off here. This video will kind of give you an idea of what it does. So it's basically a 3D world generating algorithm, creating all kinds of peaks and valleys, and it even has at some point, let's see, there it is. Like, yeah, so he drops in the little XNA tank, and shows that it's kind of like a height map working as well. So I mean, if you needed a 3D world generating algorithm, terrain and everything, in XNA, that's kind of cool. He's released it, and it is world generating. As he zooms out, you'll see it's a sphere. It is a world.
Wow.
Yeah, so I thought that was pretty impressive and pretty cool. We'll have a link to that in the show notes, but that is crappycoding.com, and Farewell XNA is the post, and I thought that was pretty neat to go ahead and say, hey, I'm going to move on to other frameworks, and just going to go ahead and share that code. Alright, so we're going to talk a little bit about piracy, because it came up a bit since we've been out. First article, Hotline Miami, pirated to extraordinary levels, quote unquote. The horrible headline, and it's really taking out of context what the developers said. The developers basically said there's been a lot of, torrents on it, and it's a small game, so it made it easily torrentable. Still sold 130,000 copies, and I think it's like a $10 game on Steam. So that's like 1 million gross sales. Although it has been on sale, it's a $5 game on sale and, getting a cut. So, yes, it's been pirated. But the interesting thing here that I think Develop Berries here and doesn't do a good job reporting on is that they went to the torrent site and posted in the torrents the patched version. Like, hey guys, if you're going to torrent it, you're going to download it illegally, here is the updated patched version. At least get a proper experience. We don't want people, like, if you're going to steal our game, please at least have a good experience, because we don't want you going to forums and saying, like, oh, this is crappy, it didn't work, when it's things we have fixed. Which I thought was a pretty interesting take on piracy. It was like, we made a small downloadable title, and a lot of people pirated it because it was really easy to do. We still sold a fair amount. I mean, Hotline Miami is getting a lot of props. It's a good game. it's kind of a roguelike game. So when you look at that kind of like roguelike generated or type, things, there's a point where I step back and I go, okay, because you make a game does not entitle you to a lifetime of royalty payments. You know what I mean?
Right.
And this is beyond games, okay? I have this problem with authors and movie makers, screenwriters, and actors, and, it's like this idea that you did this thing this one time, and that you are entitled to money from it for the rest of your life, right? It's a weird way that we've set up that it's become this thing, right? So it's like, okay, you wrote this book and people are still buying the book. That's great. But when you start going after people like writing in the universe of your 35-year-old book, Tolkien estate, it's like, I don't know, man. Like, the time put into it versus the time that you reaped and the amount of rewards that you reaped into it, it's like, let somebody else, write in that world. It's not... Yeah, I have a problem with that, okay? I do...
Yeah.
I'm conflicted on that, because it is at the same time, like, intellectual property and that kind of thing, but I get torn on that. And so the idea of, like, hey, we released this Hotline Miami game, and they're not coming at it from the angle of, like, oh, well, we should have been compensated for the next 5 years, 15 years, lived off of this one game. It's like, well, this is a small downloadable title that has a really good soundtrack and a really neat gameplay mechanic. It does its one thing, and it does its one thing well. It's a great game. But make another. Like,
yeah.
Work for a living. You know what I mean?
And honestly, if you've gotten the opportunity, it's on Steam, if you've broken through with one game, you're actually doing a lot better than, you have a lot of opportunity at that point.
Right. You're not...
You're actually set up to do a second game and actually make a decent...
And you have a fan base now.
Of
you have an easier time of getting to Steam and platforms. Yeah. Working with publishers if you want, if that's the route that you want. So these are the avenues have opened up. Be careful about it and how you go about it. And, of course, piracy... I'm not advocating piracy.
Right.
But I think sometimes it is scapegoated when it's like, okay, guys, a lot of people pirated it, yes. But it was also a shitty game. You know what I mean? Like, not in this case.
How many of those people would have bought it?
Right. Like, you can't say that everyone who pirates is a purchase missing. Okay? That is not the case. So, also on piracy, the Minecraft movie. As soon as the movie went up, they put it on the Pirate Bay with a link back to buy it, and they said, hey, we know you guys are going to pirate this movie. Okay? We know it. It's going to be pirated. So we're putting it up here to make sure it's a high-res copy, it's a good version of the movie, and a link, and say, like, hey, if you pirate it and you like it, please buy it. Also, if you don't mind... put in the comments why you're pirating it. Just tell us why you're doing it. Because, they say in there that Gabe Newell, says, like, piracy is a service problem, right? So it's like Steam's DRM is really low-key, okay? Now, games can use secure ROM, which some of them do, like Batman Arkham Asylum, has a note on it for like Steam of, like, hey, just to let you know, people are having problems running this game. And you go in the forums and you find out, yeah, it's Secure ROM DRM on top of Steam DRM, and it's not working. And it's cool that Steam is just like, hey, we'll let you know. This game may not work on install. Getting a fix up. It should be, if you buy it on sale, it should work later. Of course, the forum posts, and they're not being deleted, are basically like, yeah, go here, download this file, remove secure ROM from the game, and play your damn game that you just bought. And, I could see Gabe Newell going like, yeah, I'm going to let that stand, because you're punishing legit users. So then it's the bad side of the whole DRM and piracy argument and all that. But they're coming out and they say, pirates of like, hey, we're putting it online, $8 digital download, $20 DVD. It might be a little high for a movie download, but it's also a niche movie. You know,
Yeah.
the Minecraft story is not going to do Avengers numbers.
And I would expect, I would guess that this is going to eventually hit Netflix like Indie Game the movie did.
Yeah.
Right?
You know, well, Indie Game the movie also hit the Humble Bundle.
Yeah.
And you could get it, and it was on Steam, and, you know, I saw a lot of my friends finally watching it. It's funny. They have 2.2 hours played of Indie Game the movie. It would be funny if you turned it off halfway, and then you're like a guy that only watched half the movie, and it's in your Steam history of like, oh yeah, only played 1 hour of Indie Game the movie. Now, Two Player Productions, I think, did Indie Game the movie. Yes.
I don't know.
Two Player Productions are doing Double Fine, and they did the Minecraft movie. The Minecraft movie, I watched it, not that great. It's okay. There's some good quotes by developers. You know, it's good to hear Notch talk. It's good to hear Jeb talk, you know, about game design and kind of what they think on this or that, and hear them struggling with this. But the problem is that they start the movie in 2011, and they end the beginning of 2012. So Minecraft is big and then bigger by the end of it. And there is no triumph that is overcome. So like in Indie Game the movie, you know, Stags has even rightly pointed out this before. There are pieces cut, and it wasn't as dire straits as it made it look and seem. But for the most part, you're watching team meet two guys living in their parents' houses, you know, making this game, this passion, this dream, and it working and it paying off in the end. And then like they overcame this thing, you know. And
That was kind of my gripe though with Indie Game the movie was some of it. I remember early on, like I said, there's one developer griping about, I just hate all these mainstream games. It was just like so much more drama because you're looking at the guys at the top. But Team Meat was like the example of like, you know,
yeah, and the bulk of Indie Game the movie is Team Meat.
Yeah.
There's a little Jonathan Blow in there, and there's a little Phil Fish in there, and those are your extremity guys.
Yeah.
As well. But I mean, Phil Fish has some great, you know, comments of like, I am guy making Fez. That's who I am now. And if the game is not great, I am not great, you know? And it's not just a statement of the fans' reception and the fans branding Phil Fish as a bad game maker. It's him personally invested in the project, and he can't separate himself from the game anymore. And, you know, those kind of statements were nice to hear. But it was cool to see Team Meat go and have a successful game, right?
Yeah.
There's not that in Minecraft, because Minecraft's already successful by the time the documentary starts. So it just goes from like, oh my god, we sold 1 million to, oh my god, we sold 2 million. And they, you know, their problem is, we want to do all this new stuff, but we don't have time. You know? And it's like, oh, okay, well, we're going to have Minecon and launch the game, but then we're going to keep adding all these features. So it's cool to hear Peter Molyneux talk and have a few quotes in there. Tim Schafer is excellent anytime he's on camera. Because his sarcasm is just so cut and dry and perfect delivery. Because he's even asking, they even put it in like outtakes at the end of the movie and the credits roll. It's like after his interview, he's like, it was really cool what you guys are doing. Because I think from this is where he starts having the conversations of Kickstarter. Because they have a little like credits wrap up, and they're like, and then Double Fine launched their Kickstarter, and then Peter Molyneux left Microsoft, and you know, Double Fine cites Minecraft as a reason for, you know, embracing the community, and Peter Molyneux cites Minecraft as like one of the things of like, because Peter Molyneux had a lot of praise for it, because he was basically like, it smacked him across the face of like, you've become the thing that you fought, like you are the institution now. You know, and looking around going like, I am the problem, I am, you know, and like, the only way I become not the institution is to leave it all behind, to walk away, and, you know, not saying like Minecraft was the ultimate factor in that decision, but he gives a lot of credit to that, and it's really cool to hear him heap on praise for Minecraft and all the things that it was doing right mechanically and game design wise and new directions. But Tim Schafer's at the end of the movie, and after his interview's wrapping up, he's looking at the guys and, taking off his mic and things like that, and he's like, so all right, so you're doing this, and when you think it'll be out? And like, oh, okay, that's kind of cool, and you're kickstarting this, and, and all that? Yeah, oh, okay, that's interesting. So what are you guys calling it? And they're like, we're calling it Minecraft. It's like, oh, wow, where do you guys get your ideas from, It's like, wow. Also, there's another line he has in the movie, too, and I'm probably ruining the two best lines in the movie, where he talks about, like, all the money that they've made off of Minecraft, and he's like, they've made more money off Minecraft than we've made off our best titles. And, the thing is like, when you take somebody else's money to make your game, a publisher, then you have to give them all the money you make on the game. You don't get to keep any of it. So it turns out not taking publisher money is kind of the secret to keeping your money. And I just love how subtle that was, because at that point, they had not done the Double Fine Adventure Kickstarter. So that's kind of cool to see those gears turning in there of like, wait a minute, maybe we can make our own games as well. I think it was interesting, Stegosaurus is talking a little bit about, Indie Game the movie. They do have Jonathan Blow in there. He didn't say anything. I don't think he said anything in the movie. He was just sitting at a panel at E3 or something. Like, they got 3 people together. And it's funny because, like, you have Jonathan Blow there. Very artistic is a nice way to say it. And I love Jonathan Blow. I do love that. I think we need our crazies. I do think we need our guys, who are willing to just say, like, you guys don't understand anything that I do.
You're
and
not
they
listening
burn
to
the
me.
studio and, everything. Because it's like the crazies push the envelope, So we need these guys. We need Peter Molyneux being crazy again, which is why I backed Goddess, which just slipped in under the wire of getting backed. I think there's a lot of negative press. A lot of press are negative on Peter Molyneux, and they're just waiting for him to fail. And I don't know if that's because, like, all the promises he makes and then delivers, and they review these games and they get tired of it or something. Definitely the press has a chip on their shoulder. Anytime they write anything about Peter Molyneux, it's always negative, and it's always taking his words and stretching the meaning and looking for additional meaning. So that he got funded is really good, because he's going to go get to make his final, God game that he wants to make, and get to be a crazy again. So I think we need them. But it's funny because it's like in this panel, and Notch, so Jonathan Blow there, dressed really well, as he always is, and all that. I don't know who the other guy is, but he's dressed okay. I didn't recognize him. And then Notch is in there with a t-shirt that says Scrolls.com. Like, he's like, well, I'm at E3, I should probably promote my next game. So he has a t-shirt that says Scrolls.com on it, and I'm just thinking, like, Jonathan Blow probably fucking hates Notch because of this moment, of like, you don't dare self-promote. Not in the artist's mind. Like, that is a sin to self-promote, And, here's this, Notch is just a fun, lovable guy. You can't hate Notch, He fucking rocks a fedora like nobody's business, man. So it's an okay movie. I'd say wait for Netflix, or torrent it, since they're obviously okay with them torrenting it. All right. Hey, Raspberry Pi. I'm gonna quick burn a couple news items here. Raspberry Pi opened a store. There is a store where you can buy things. You can sell apps for the Raspberry Pi, which seems kind of weird given that you don't know what the platform may be that they're running on.
Yeah, I was going to say, is this like built into Raspbian?
There is Raspbian, so there is kind of an official distribution and an official supported version by the Foundation and that they're working on. So I'm going to assume that that's there, but I don't know, it's kind of interesting. They already beat me to the punch. Somebody already has a tutorial up of making Space Invaders and Pygame on the Raspberry Pi, which my first thought when I saw that was of like, oh, well then I can just put my tutorial of Space Invaders and XNA up there, and it's like somebody's already got that. Speaking of Raspberry Pi, I got the source code. I got the not the source code. I got the code for Minecraft on the Pi. It went up online for like a brief moment by mistake. It's not ready yet. They're going to delay it and release it in January. But the thing about the internet is forever. And once it was up there for a moment and one person downloaded it, I managed to figure out what the file name was from cache, and then went to Google and pumped that in and found somebody's Dropbox link that matched that name and hit that link, and lo and behold, it was exactly the binary, so I've been running it on my Pi. The cool thing about the Minecraft on the Pi is that it has a scripting interface. So you open up a socket connection to Minecraft, and then you can send it commands to create blocks and get player position and move things and all that. So it's supposed to be a gateway into development by allowing kids to script Minecraft. Definitely going to play more with that. Definitely interested in that for like things with the tech co and all of that. Valve Steam beta for Linux. It's public now. Everybody can jump on that and run Steam on Linux. I think GA Tech Grad, if you're still in the chat, were you running the Linux Steam when we played TF2 tonight? Because we went over to TechCo earlier in the evening, and we just had an old school LAN party. And some people were on Mac clients, some people were on Windows client. I think Levi GA Tech Grad was not tonight. Okay, but he did have Steam. He was working on getting it up and running on Linux. But the real reason that its Linux beta is out is, you know what? I didn't queue that news item up. Haha. I cut that one. But Gabe has basically said, yeah, we're working on Steam in the living room. We are working on hardware to put Steam in the living room. So, I'm almost confirming now. Yeah, when I said we weren't working on a console, I was lying to you. And you guys knew it, you know. But Steam opened, the news item I did keep, is that Valve opened a community market on Steam so that you can sell items. I don't know, I think this was in TF2 first. So, if you unlock items or upgrades, you can sell them for cash to other players.
More hats!
You'll notice when you go to your inventory, things will say, tradable, not tradable, and marketable, not marketable. Meaning you could sell that item. Speculation is that this is going to open the gateway for a used game market on digital downloads. Because it's Steam, they could revoke your rights to the game and allow you to sell used games on Steam. And that would be fucking awesome. If they did that, that would be really awesome. Also, Valve is in a position to work with the publishers to say, look, used game, we'll fix the price at 60% of the retail price, and you guys will get 10% off the top, so the user keeps 50%. So you sell your games for 50%, 10% go to the publisher, maybe a little cut for Valve or something, so you guys get a cut of used game sales still, and everybody's happy. I mean, that could happen. That seems really awesome.
And so many levels, and if they made their own box that could do this?
Yeah, and if they had it on their own console, it just further, highlights, where PSN and Xbox
Easy
Live
button.
need to get to. But that's just rumor.
Yeah, I was going to say,
used game is just rumor.
It makes more sense to do with unlockable. If they did used games, that would affect the market, because there's no difference than between a used game and a new one.
Especially digitally.
Not digitally at all.
Yeah,
that's why I'm saying they might come in and lock the price. So it's hey, sell your used games, it'll be at this price. And when somebody buys a used game, it's like a round robin or a queue system. Because otherwise, it's digital, right? So the price would go to 99 cents in a heartbeat.
It sounds like they're just trying to copy...
Everybody's played Saints Row the Third, everybody's done with Saints Row the Third, everybody's selling Saints Row the Third.
It really sounds more like they're trying to be, Diablo 3 with its whole...
Right now they are. Yes.
Marketplace.
Right now they're opening that up, and hopefully it's like an API, so all Steam games can add that in if they wish. We'll see. We got a few Kickstarter articles to cover, and then we call it a show. First up, Code Hero. So this broke out a while ago, but we haven't done an episode in which we could actually talk about this. And you and I, Dylan, are both backers of Code Hero at small amounts. Basically,
small amounts to get a copy.
So what happened here was that the developers were radio silent for about 4 or 5 months. And backers in the community, and one guy in particular in the comments thread, the backers, basically just started posting like, what the fuck's going on? It's been months, and now there's comments and interviews of like, we're out of money, and we're looking for more funding, and things like that. It's like, what do you mean? You raised, Code Hero, I think, raised $800,000, almost $1 million. It was one of the crazy success stories. Right around the same time as Double Fine Adventure.
And they had a playable game.
And they had a playable game up.
So
I got into some arguments on Twitter with Nick Gravlin and a couple others because I was like, you have to separate this from like buyer beware scams on Kickstarter, right?
Yeah.
Because if you kick the tires on Code Hero, it passed. There was a playable game up. You know, you could download that immediately. Like, go grab it, download it. I did. I played it. I thought it was kind of cool. You could write some JavaScript or Unity script. Or maybe it was Unreal script. I forget which one. And you write that script, and then you put that script on your gun, and then when you fire it, whatever the gun hits does that thing. So you could have move, 3 blocks right. And fire that gun, and when you hit the wall shifted 3 blocks right. And then you could write a for loop that would basically make a staircase out of the floor, and then you could get up to the exit. So you got a handful of levels in there. The concept was in there. It needed graphical polish, but man, there was a playable game up. So
yeah, and at the lower levels, I mean, you pretty much got your money's worth.
I think. I'm not going to say I didn't get a money's worth,
Yeah, I was going to say, like, if you backed at higher levels...
And the game was always to be free, I believe. I'll have to go back and check that 100%, but the whole idea was to, like, encourage people to program and, like, hey, learn to mod the game from within the game, right? As the gateway drug. I remember taking it to our X&A, our game design meetup group, and... like, hey, when this thing gets closer and polished, man, the kids that are there, I'll get you, kids to play it. It's kind of Minecrafty and kind of cool in the way you just kind of shape the world however you want. So you've got to separate that from the, hey, this video is made from stock art. There's no gameplay. We've never heard from these guys. It's just designed to take your money. That's just stock assets from RPG makers. All they did is make something real quick in RPG Maker and then film it and put it on Kickstarter to make it look like a game. And they're just duping people, right? That's a different kind of scam because that was lying from the outset, whereas Code Hero guys were not. So they just basically went radio silent for 5 months. And one of the guys in there basically said like, hey, contact me. I'm building a mailing list. The mailing list was called Class Action Code Hero at gmail.com, right?
Wow.
He's like, we're not doing anything at the moment, but I want everybody just, hey, where are you at? What do you feel? People were demanding, and this has been going on for a while, demanding refunds because nothing had been delivered, all the dates had far past. I think it's a year out now from its estimated delivery. And then it started getting a lot of bad press. And then the guy makes a whole bunch of updates and releases a new build. And, he was at Penny Arcade. He showed a playable game at the Penny Arcade Expo. So again, it's hard to put this in the scam box, right? But he was not coming forthright with the community.
Right.
So overall, I think the system worked here. Okay? A guy on community on Kickstarter stopped posting updates. Backers went publicly shame him into, like, causing an issue. Because, like, it's coming to the point where it's like, no, you're going to be branded as the guy who ripped off Kickstarter. Right?
Yeah, you're going to be the first big...
Yes. Yeah. And it almost kind of was. It almost kind of got to that level very quickly.
Well, I think the issue, too, was hadn't he been involved in some other business venture that had kind of gone the same way before this?
I think that kind of stuff started coming out, but that almost seems a little, like, after the fact, trying to, like, like, when it was a Kickstarter, it was a plus, now it's a negative, like, this wasn't unknown information then.
Well, and also, this is just...
I mean, a game studio launched a game that wasn't successful.
Yeah.
Is not a red flag, Well,
this I don't think this was a game. This was just something else. But this is one of the things that kind of the public perception of Kickstarter is going to have to change, where just because you have a genius idea does not mean that you are honest, that you are competent, that, things are not just going to go horribly awry,
Interesting that you should say that, Dylan. The next item queued up is Kickstarter blog with a post they did the week after this stuff started breaking, saying, "Is lateness a failure?" And they talk about a research project from a Wharton professor. They don't address the Code Hero. They find another article to use as the example. Said basically found that 25% of Kickstarter projects delivered rewards by their date. So 75% of projects were late. What Kickstarter pointed out is in the same study, which nobody was covering, only 3.6% failed to deliver projects. Only 3.6% were actually truly like, nobody got anything. Everybody was just late. 75% were late, but everybody was late. And they go on a little bit about like, hey, they were like, people that are making Kickstarter projects are like art, and Miyamoto said like a delayed game is eventually good, but a rushed game is bad forever, and it's like, so to be late is better than to rush it and that kind of thing. But they go to the whole like Kickstarter's not a store angle again, and then like, you're playing the Kickstarter's not a store, but the way backers pick pre-orders, from the list, and the way that you tell them that the backer, or that the project creator is legally obligated to deliver the goods to the backer that are promised, it makes you sound like a store.
I'm sure, I would imagine the legally obligated part is kind of something that they can exercise at their discretion, where, if it is just...
Well, no, Kickstarter says that you are contractually obligated to deliver the items that you promise to the backers. They tell the project creators that, like, you must provide those. You're legally... What they're not doing is doing any kind of regulation on it. So
that's what I mean.
But if there's going to be a lawsuit, it'll be by the backers themselves. We're not going to enforce that. We're just going to say, by the terms on the site, that was the expectation. And to me, that's where I'm like, no, you're a store.
Yeah.
You're pre-orders.
Well, the problem is, based on the nature of Kickstarter, and for Kickstarter to be what Kickstarter is supposed to be, is trying to be, and not just become another eBay or another Amazon, there has to be that case of risk. Like, the public perception has to change, or the Kickstarter just becomes eBay or Amazon.
Yeah. And I think it's already too far down that one side. It's going to become eBay or Amazon. I mean, with the rule changes that they've been making, where they're requiring more of the projects be completed before they become on.
Yeah.
It's like, so you're making it a store. You know, I mean, if you're making it to the point where I'm ready just to hit manufacturing,
Yeah.
then it's pre-orders.
And of course, it's different for games versus products that actually have a physical component as well, like you mentioned with manufacturing. I don't know, like, culturally, I do not think we like the idea of risk. We do not like the idea that, you know, everything won't go by the book.
Right.
And I just...
And I'll also say, on Kickstarter side, they give some really shitty tools post-Kickstarter. Like, they can do that survey once and only once.
Right.
You know, and it just seems like, well, what if I'm making a game, and I promise you a copy of the game, DRM free download, and a t-shirt. So, the game is going to take 8 months, but the t-shirt's going to be done the month after. First of all, what do I put as my estimated date of delivery down? 1 month? And make it seem like the game's going to be done in a month? That ain't true. Or I put down the date, 8-9 months, what I think it's going to take to finish the game, but then you're like, it's going to take 9 months to get the fucking t-shirt, you know? And it's like, no, we're going to ship those immediately. But then, I got this window of 1 month and 8 months later, I want to do a survey and ask your t-shirt size and where to ship your t-shirt now. And then 9 months later, do a survey again and say where to ship the game. And so you see a lot of Kickstarters use their survey to say, hey, give us your email information and like a username or some shit. And it's creating an account on our site so that we can interact with you more often than Kickstarter allows. But I'm sure there's a certain percentage of people who never transfer from the Kickstarter site over to the forum site or whatever, and therefore lose. And they might even like come back and complain, like, I never got my t-shirt. And it's like, well, you never came to our site and filled out the information there because Kickstarter only had one survey and we needed both pieces of information, and we forgot to ask, like where to ship it to or something dumb. We left off the survey and now we're fucked.
It seems like Kickstarter's trying to do quote unquote the right thing and not build, allow people to build spam lists basically. But
I paid money to you. So like that's not spamming at that point.
Yeah, they're going to have to adapt, no question.
And I can always go to Kickstarter's site and opt out. Like, oh, don't email me from these guys. I don't need more email. So that's a really weak reason to silence all the communication as they do. And there was also the project for the iPhone door lock. Kickstarter rejected. This thing is awesome. So it goes over your deadbolt. Okay? So you screw it onto the door, it covers up the deadbolt, and there's a bigger lever on the outside to work it. Got a little Wi-Fi emitter in it and everything. And then you have an iPhone app, and then, when you Wi-Fi or Bluetooth to it within range, and you punch in your iPhone code, your door unlocks.
Can you still use a key?
Yeah.
Normally? Okay.
Still use your key. Fits right over it. It's freaking awesome. And Kickstarter rejected that because they said, oh, well, that's home improvement. We don't want home improvement projects. Like, Kickstarter has this real arbitrary list of what they will and won't allow. Although it's like they won't allow quality of life and run my business type Kickstarters of like, hey, we just need to fund the business. But yet the fucking Penny Arcade let us take ads off the site for a year.
Yeah.
Was allowed, so it's like, it's really fucking arbitrary what they allow and what they don't.
Well, and the Penny Arcade is a good example of Kickstarter's supposed to democratize everything, but you can still see that there's, some people get away with other things.
Yes.
Money.
So,
everyone's equal on Kickstarter, but some of them are equal than others.
Exactly. So anyway, what these guys did was, they got a lot of press off of being rejected from Kickstarter, and they used that press, and they went to their own site, and they put up a site that looked a lot like a Kickstarter site. And basically it was like, hey, you want to, back this. And they used Amazon payments to not charge until they shipped, which is one thing they said was an advantage of, like, Kickstarter. When the funding round's closed, then we get all the money then, or, like, within a month or so.
Yeah.
Their site, they said, no, when we ship, we'll charge you. Okay? So they got all the money pledged that gave them the ability to take a loan out because they like, hey, we have this guaranteed money as soon as we ship. They said, oh, okay, well, that's great. You know, here's the money that you're asking for a loan to manufacture and ship these items, and you get the profit and you pay back the loan. So they were able to do it that way. They open sourced the site code.
Interesting.
You download the site. It's like a WordPress type setup thing. You download the site, you upload it to your host, you put in some information, you get an Amazon account, bam, you're doing your own Kickstarter on your own site. Because they were basically like, yeah, the Kickstarter should not be this arbitrary as far as what they can do and what they can't do. And it's like, okay, maybe it's home improvement because it's opening a door, but it's fucking opening a door with an iPhone, you know? It made me think of like the Nest, that intelligent thermostat that everybody's been getting. Like that would be rejected from Kickstarter, and it's like that's the exact kind of thing that Kickstarter should be doing.
Yeah.
So, what's the Spoiler Tune mentioned something about a Kickstarter 3D printer looked great, but they're being sued to kill them. I didn't see that article. What is that? Because I backed a 3D printer on Kickstarter that was funded and is being shipped. I should get mine in January. I've already gone to the guy and seen it personally. I know the guy. Yeah, that's something like I'm not gonna back $1,000 Kickstarter unless I fucking know you. All right, that's
like a Kickstarter that requires me to pay $1,000 to get your product.
Well, the backing tier that I wanted and everything was $1,000, and it's like, no, I fucking know you at that level.
What's another issue?
I don't have. Though the Kickstarter printer using laser and liquid. Oh, that was the university one. I can't remember what university did that, but they were using a liquid method, and that. So one thing that my Kickstarter tracking code does, I remember the rejected projects, and sometimes they come back, and sometimes they don't. But when Kickstarter gets a cease and desist or a takedown notice, they fucking hardcore delete your project. It's gone. And the backers get no information as to why, or what's up, and the project owner can't communicate with the backers. Like, they just start up release it, and they need to stop doing that. They need to, like, hey, this project has DMCA
takedown notice?
Intellectual property dispute or something is resolving around this. Let the creator post updates, let the backers post comments, as to what the status is, what's going to happen, and they need to have like an FAQ. It's like, okay, in this situation, we've paid the backer, so the backer is going to have to refund if they lose this. This was after the Kickstarter closed, which that has happened. There have been Kickstarters that have closed, that have disappeared. Then there's also ones in progress. It's like, hey, everybody's getting refunded, so no money was actually charged, which is what happened with the Final Fantasy fan soundtrack. But they actually came back and got permission from Square, I think, and worked out a deal. There's a lot of that on Kickstarter. There's a lot of, like, you guys don't understand that you can't take something of somebody else's and put it on Kickstarter to make money from, right? Like, a fan remake of some game was up. I can't remember what it was. But then got sued and taken down.
If you're on Kickstarter, you have to act like a business. It's not, you're not in amateur business,
and then there was the Final Fantasy soundtrack, we want to remake Final Fantasy soundtrack or do this OCR remix album of Final Fantasy or something, and it's like, no, you're going to get sued on that. You're selling the album. I know you're saying it's the money to make the album and the discs, but there's music up for purchase, and people are also buying t-shirts and giving you money above and beyond the price of the album, and you don't own the rights to that, so yeah, you need to seek that out first. Now, I think there have been Kickstarters that have said, hey, this Kickstarter is $40,000 because we have contacted the license holders and they told us if we raise X amount of funds, they will license us for this amount and we can make the game. And I think that's a great way to do it. Of like, hey, we haven't secured the rights, but if this Kickstarter hits, we will have secured the rights and we can make the game. So, yeah. Alright. Other Kickstarter stuff we got to cover. Just a couple better things. The Gunther and Associates tax guy, the guy that was on GameMarx not too long ago, he did some Kickstarter one article he did. I'm not going to get into a lot. It's basically the power of launch, and it was like, hey, Kickstarter's not marketing jack shit. You need to market it. And most of the failed projects that he's been involved with revolve around not having a marketing plan in place before the Kickstarter launched. Of like, this is our marketing plan. But he also does talk about, like, with the video game specifically, because again, he's a tax guy that specializes in video game tax law, not showing enough information at launch. And he's like, I know there's like, you want to have updates, but for a game, people have a lot of questions. You just need to answer them out the gate. On that. So, that's worth checking out. The other article of his was one I hadn't really thought of, but Kickstarter and sales tax.
Yeah.
So, like, if you do a Kickstarter and you get a backer, like we're in Tennessee, we're incorporated in Tennessee, a backer is in Tennessee that buys the game, Tennessee probably wants sales tax on that. And it can vary state by state and what the regulations are as far as what you got to do. And he kind of recommends, like, you incorporate in a state with no sales tax, like Delaware. And then that way you don't have to worry about it. Because if a Delaware resident buys the game, you don't owe sales tax. And if somebody outside of Delaware buys the game, well, you don't owe sales tax there. Because it's on the person in that state to report that. And nobody ever fucking does that. But it's on them to report sales tax and do that. And he does have some like great thing of like how like, yeah, this was a problem when mail order catalog started, and we still don't have a fucking solution for this. The government still has not gotten together and worked out a solution to solve the sales tax interstate problem, because when the laws were written, they were all around like, hey, everybody will go to the local store and buy things from their local store so we can have a local sales tax that supports the local community, and it's all good and it's all great. And then mail order catalogs came along and fucked up all of that. There were people traveling outside, and that was just like, well, that's what you get when you travel. You know, you pay different rates when you travel because you're a tourist and they're supporting the tourism industry, so okay, whatever. But then the mail order catalog came as a way for locals, people living in the town, to subvert paying sales tax. Sears and Roebuck fucked it all up, and the government never got its ass off of it. It's Keister in 100 years who solved that problem. So I thought that was interesting. That was like something I had not thought of like if you do a Kickstarter of like what you could be on the hook for. So next episode's coming up. I know we're going to have another episode and go deeper into some of these tools like RPG Maker. We're going to bring back on Sheldon to talk a little bit about that since he's working in that space. Next episode, though, I would like you both to kind of think on, maybe write up a list or so, predictions for 2013, game industry type predictions. Just whatever you feel like you think was going to happen in the next year. It'll kind of be a fun show, not going to really hold to it, but like, hey, these are the things I think are going to come out. They don't have to be indie related, but I'm not like wanting like strategy games will continue to be big off of the rise of XCOM and FTL. It's like, yes, maybe that's actually relevant. If you think certain genres will be good for indies and you have reasons to back that up, but I think that'll be a good kind of around. I wanted to do that on this episode, but since we missed the other two, I was like, we just kind of need to catch up and get that out of the way.
Yeah.
And then, so that'll be what we do next episode. Look for our 2013 predictions from highly qualified expert panel of GameMarx hosts.
Probably just as good as predictions you will get anywhere else, because that is the nature of predictions.
We are qualified game journalists as any other game journalist is. I've often said we are not journalists because, we just set up a site and wrote some reviews.
We're enthusiast reporters.
Yeah, we were enthusiast press, but considering that game press has no distinction between enthusiast press and journalists, fuck it, we're journalists. I cut this from the news, but there was an article by Ben Kuchera, of all people, complaining about game journalism and how, like, this story that ran never happened because it was a misquote of an article, of a reblog, of a reblog. It was like some blogger made this up, and then this site covered this blog, and then this site covered that site, and then Kotaku covered that site, and then, like, everybody covers it, and it's just like, oh, we just have to be so fast and cover everything that nobody's fact-checking, and it's like, bullshit. That you know what blogs and Twitter do? They cover shit fast with no fact-checking. If you're a fucking news site, fact-check. And it's not that hard to find the source of the story, Like, if you look around a little bit, you can find the source, and then don't just run the link. Like, the source ran the link. If all you're doing is like, hey, go read this,
you're not providing any...
You're an RSS
You're a
feed.
fucking Tumblr. You're not a site.
It's kind of a catch-22, though, because what a lot of, this happens more in mainstream journalism than specifically tech or games journalism. But if, like, CNN... If Twitter has a story before CNN, even if CNN was later because they were fact-checking, they're still going to catch crap for it. Like, they're being driven to that point because of criticism from Twitter and, social media.
But the thing is like,
and they shouldn't...
the criticism
Yeah,
is on the shitty reporting, too. So it's like, okay, if the problem is all this criticism for you being late and covering stories that are old, and the problem is criticism, you're still getting criticized for a shitty job when you're fast and wrong. So you haven't solved the problem.
Yeah, the problem is not bending to that criticism and, doing it the wrong way to be first, but...
I mean, this is why I read Giant Bomb. This is why I cover Giant Bomb. They don't fucking cover every release. They don't have time to cover every game, and their reviews aren't always up day one. And it's basically like, look, if you want to get screwed, pre-order that game. But I recommend you just go ahead and wait and read reviews and make a decision based on that. But, we can't hold you to that. But, and also, because Giant Bomb has really taken a hardline tack on reviews that we copied, I was like, yes, this is what we do.
Yeah.
Of, like, the byline matters. This is not the Giant Bomb review of the game. This is Brad's review, or this is Jeff's review. And Jeff loves fighting games, so it going in. He is a fighting game expert, so he's A, going to be great for the niche crowd that loves fighting games. B, for the people who don't like fighting games, he might be biased in favor of giving it higher marks than I would, because I don't like fighting games, and this is not the one to draw you in. And
if he starts talking technical stuff, just turn away.
Yeah. But, the kind of stuff they cover. And they've also, like, shifted their content a lot, too, to quick looks. Because, Jeff is pretty good on their podcast about talking about, like, what is the purpose of a game review? What is the purpose of what we do anymore on the site? Because it's like, with YouTube and Let's Plays and all that, like, people can find out what a game is like from their peers faster than any game site can get that review up, and that's what they go to check first anyway. So it's like all this effort that goes into writing review and all that. If you're just going to go watch some YouTube videos of people playing it to kind of get a feel of it, he's like, well, people watch our quick looks, and that's what they really enjoy. They enjoy it for the content, because they like the personalities and they like the guys talking, but they also like getting a good hand look at the game. And I'll be honest, a lot of the games that they quick look makes my decision of whether that game goes on my Steam wish list or not, or whether, like, you know, Don't Starve, that, you know, I saw, like, oh, Sissy would like that, was from a quick look, you know. FTL was from a quick look, and then Cicely going, like, I want that game, and me going, like, do you know what that fucking game's about?
It's like, I want that game.
Well, alright, it's on fucking sale. Let me get 2 copies of it. Because I kind of want it too. So it'll just be a good excuse for me to get it. So, yeah, I guess that's just a round way of saying, like, that's why I read their site. That's why I constantly subscribe and unsubscribe from Kotaku. Because it's like, big stories will happen on Kotaku, and I need to, like, flag them for mention and things like that. But at the same time, I'll read, like, the next 10 articles, and I'll be like, this is why I don't fucking read Kotaku, because this is shit. I can click through your source, and click through his source, and then click through that source, and realize what you wrote is not what that guy said.
I don't read Kotaku directly, but if I see, like, a link on Fark or Dig, I will sometimes usually follow it.
Happen.
So it's kind of like, I'm getting that filtered out. Like, I'm getting the
that
stories
stuff will happen,
that are actually...
and then I'll flag it so it's in my reader so I can star it and remember to cover it. And it's like, yeah, I should keep an eye on Kotaku, but, you know, if I can play it with Develop, I gotta kind of dig deep on Develop stuff. Like, on the Develop articles that I covered earlier with the extraordinary rates of piracy. It's like, in relation to what? You know, this game was pirated extraordinarily compared to what statistics did you get? You know?
Like, in response to what you expected?
How about you took a quote way out of context, and the more interesting story was how they responded to piracy.
Yeah.
I need to get our site redone. I need to put that on my priority list, because I think these kind of journalism pieces, in which I mean old school journalism, I'm researching and writing an article here that is sort of opinion-based, but I'm backing it up with fact. I'm calling out a practice or a behavior, you know, like that kind of, like, journalistic reporting that, you know, it's like you're uncovering or you're trying to highlight stuff. I think back on when we covered games, the articles I liked writing the most were what was happening in the Xbox Live indie scene that were not getting major press, you know, of like the ratings fiascos, and being shoved in the dashboard, and how that was significant, and not just writing like, oh, this sucks, we've been stuffed in a corner, but like quoting out developers of like revenue of this dashboard spot versus that dashboard spot.
Complaining when there's actually something to complain about, as opposed to the state of the community.
Well, hopefully making the context clear to somebody who doesn't know anything about the situation, to come in and go, okay, it's not just a bunch of whiny baby developers. It's actually kind of a serious issue. There's a lot of noise around it, and hopefully we can cut that. That never worked, because nobody ever fucking read GameMarx that mattered, but that was what I did, like,
part of the reason is that's not a source of constant content.
Here is the irony that we will end the show on. GA Tech Grad said, I like Giant Bomb, and so they went 2+ hours, I'm guessing on the podcast, and too much shooting the breeze on the podcast. And with that note,
2-hour podcast.
We will see you guys in a week. Thank you for tuning in the live show. Thank you for tuning in, downloading the audio version. Thank you for watching us on YouTube. All 2 hours of our podcast.
You've been listening to GameMarx. Visit us at GameMarx.com for the latest news, reviews, and videos on indie gaming. That's GameMarx.com.
How many fucking ads are you gonna play?
Maroon 5 doesn't play small venues anymore.
Is that the third ad I've gotten? Damn. My desk is a fucking mess.
Daddy, that's Daddy. That's Mommy. That's this.
Who's this?
That's one.
Mm-hmm.
That's that one. That's Mommy. That's Mommy. That's Mommy. This. That's Mommy.
Night-night, Mr. Dillon.
Mommy.
Night.
I'm gonna kill this story. I'm not gonna cover it, but because it was just more of like a what the fuck moment.
Yeah.
But Game Maker, new edition of Game Maker, right? Which I supposedly hope it doesn't destroy your assets if it thinks it's pirated now.
Is this another WTF aside from the piracy?
Aside from the piracy, they now support increase-decrease operators, like I++. And this is big news in the Game Maker community. And it's literally like a big bullet point. Like, we're finally able to bring this feature often requested to the Game Maker scripting language, you know, and it's really hard. And it's just like, I don't know. To me, it's just like, how...
Could you do I equals I plus 1?
I think that's what you had to do, yeah.
Because, I mean, it's nice, and that would be a major annoyance if I were using it.
Yeah,
But
yeah, it would be an annoyance, but it's more the staggering... It's been an ongoing requested feature for so long.
yeah, it's almost like
And then it was difficult to implement. And I was like, what have you fucked on the underside to make I++ difficult to implement? Like, even if you just did like a regex parsing the code of like, replace I++ with I, you know, plus equals 1 or something, you know.
I don't know, just from what little I've looked at Game Maker, I get the
How the
sense
fuck do you write
that
a for loop without I++?
I equals I plus... Well, you could do it like the basic way, which is...
A while loop that
Yeah.
checks the condition and alters and, yeah.
Yeah, like a... Instead of being, you know, starting condition, ending condition, incrementer, or, you know, however it's called, you know, set up in like C-style languages, yeah, it could be something that only increments or decrements.
You get too fancy, I'll run your game live on air, since you put it in Dropbox.
You leave me alone.
Stags wants you to know that pixel art is awesome. Pixel art is awesome.
Pixel art in general, or her pixel art?
It's from a video he linked to her earlier.
Oh.
Wait, what?
She doesn't get it.
Oh, pixel art is awesome. And I've been looking at Seiken Densetsu.
You don't get it.
I don't fucking care.
Wait,
See what I have to deal with.
I'm completely lost on all of this. Like, all of this.
There was a Twitter conversation earlier, and Stegs linked in a video to her. Yeah, I knew what you were talking about, Stegs.
This is totally not what she wants you to do live on air.
No, it's not live.
Oh. Now it's live.
Now it's live. What's the text I'm not going to read? What's the text I'm not going to read?
You're not really the one to be testing this or playing it. What are you doing?
I don't think you know what that word means.
It almost worked.
What is
I
it?
think you know what that word.
Yes, I'm lost to the ether. I am lost to the ether.
You got a podcast to do.